on Friday. All you got to do is go to YouTube. Find us at The Fan Milwaukee. Use the @ symbol, then The Fan Milwaukee, and you will find us on YouTube, streaming all of our local shows live to you, whether it's Pack-A-Day Radio with Andy Herman, weekday mornings 8 to 9, whether it's the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis, brought to you by Verizon, the #1 network in Milwaukee from 9 to 11 weekday mornings. This show from 2 to 5 every day, or if it's the leadoff show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, that comes up today from 5 to 6:30 with our guy Tommy Wirtz. And then, of course, Wisconsin Sports Weekend, which apparently is like the most popular one on YouTube right now, with Jack Pembroke and Charlie Usen, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. You guys are studs.
It's just the most beautiful show, Sparky. What can I say? We do what we can.
The
We're
most
just
beautiful
stunners.
show. I think I would agree with that. You guys probably are the most beautiful show. Yeah, you and Jack Pembroke, the two beautiful guys. And then the other guys, Mason's old, I'm old, Thunder's old, Andy's old. I mean, really only got, and Jack really is closer to our age than he is to your age, if we're being honest. Really, we've only got two young guys on this whole thing, and that's you and Tommy Wirtz. That's it. So check us out on YouTube if you'd like. Otherwise, you can do it the old-fashioned way and just stream us, thefanmilwaukee.com, or go on your Odyssey app. It's free. Download it, AUDACY, and stream us that way at the Fan Milwaukee there as well. Coming up on today's show, Andrew Wagner is going to join us from Forbes Sports, Brewers writer, presented by Focus Baseball. Sign up for your Focus Baseball tryouts today for your youth, whether it be from age 6 all the way up into high school. Go to focusbaseball.com today to find out when your tryout dates are. And having been over there with my son for the last couple of winters, training in the offseason, they do a great job over there. So make sure to check them out, focusbaseball.com. Now, normally he's at 3:20. Yesterday, Pat Murphy, the Brewers manager, he spoke at 3:15, which would take Andrew Wagner out of that time slot. So that is a fluid situation as we currently speak. We have another fluid situation in the 2 o'clock hour because Joe Block, play-by-play voice of the Pirates, former play-by-play voice of the Milwaukee Brewers, is hoping that he can join us at 2:40. However, that also is a fluid situation based on what's going on in his world of doing play-by-play and pregame interviews and everything else. So we won't be able to lock that one in until about 2:25 or 2:30. Have no fear. We have a backup plan. This person doesn't know he's a backup plan. He thinks he's the original plan, but it's a long story. But we will have somebody on from Pittsburgh one way or the other, whether it's plan A, Joe Block, or plan B. I'm not telling you who it is until we know if Joe Block's coming on or not. But we have a backup. Either way, we're talking about the Pirates and the Brewers with somebody from Pittsburgh, hopefully Joe Block at 2:40. Because I've not heard Joe Block's thoughts or anything else on the passing of Euchre. We did not get Joe Block on that day. Not because I did not try to get Joe Block on that day. I certainly did. Remember, Charlie and I were on the air for what? 6 hours? Mm-hmm. 6 hours you and I were on the air. 6 hours straight.
Shows, one of the longest times I've spent talking about something.
Yes, 6 hours. We were on there from like 11:15 all the way to like 5 or 6 o'clock that night. And we had Paul Molitor on, and we had all kinds of different people that were on the show, and it was awesome. And I was trying to get Joe Block too. And it wasn't until today that I realized that I actually have a second number for Joe Block in my phone. And for the last 2 years, I've been texting the wrong number. And this morning, I finally texted the correct number, and he responded and can do it. So that was completely my fault. Otherwise, we would have had Joe on back then. But anyways, so hopefully we'll get Joe Block on coming up at 2:40. Got a Green and Gold update coming up at 4 o'clock. We're efforting a guest for that as well. Charlie is working on that one, so we may have someone there too. So what I'm telling you is this is going to be a really good show if this all works out. I just can't tell you times and names necessarily confirmed for everything. I want to talk about last night, if you don't mind, for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, as you know, being a Brewers fan, you, myself, Tommy Wirtz, I think Charlie Usen's in this category, are all very, very excited about the Brewers farm system. And in fact, our guy Kurt Hogue, beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, has a new piece up today. He is doing the top 35 prospects, in his opinion, based on his scouting, for the Brewers minor league system. And up today is 21 through 35. And then there'll be another section of players up tomorrow, and then another section up, I think, on Thursday. So I was reading through all of that. Well, Chad Patrick is a guy that was in the Brewers farm system last year at AAA that nobody was talking about. And Chad Patrick put up unbelievable numbers. He really did. He had a great year last year. And anytime we would have Sam Dykstra from MILB Pipeline, or Jim Callis from MILB Pipeline, or our guys over at Baseball America that we have on. Anytime we have any of those guys on last year on this show, nobody ever talked about Chad Patrick. And in fairness, I never asked about Chad Patrick because I had never heard from anybody that was a legit possibility. So I never really did any investigation. I don't go to Sounds games in Nashville. I like Nashville, but I don't go down there for AAA baseball games. So not seen him pitch. So then he gets his opportunity to come up to the major league level and really has been outstanding at this point. Really has. Been really, really good. Now, these last two starts, I think you could say probably haven't been as good for Chad Patrick as he had been earlier to this point. The other thing working against Chad Patrick is the fact that Brandon Woodruff, who was at American Family Field yesterday, and our guy Drew Wagner was there and was there for the media scrum with Brandon Woodruff, and Tommy Wirtz played it back yesterday during the leadoff show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. He is close. Close, like within the next week or so, I believe, providing there's not some other weird setback that occurs, to being back into this rotation. And then becomes the conversation piece of, well, then who is going to go down? Well, we know Jacob Mizorowski through two starts, based on numbers, should not be the guy going down. And as Tommy Wirtz has pointed out, and I looked up myself, Jacob Mizorowski right now is the favorite for Rookie of the Year after two starts.
That was quick.
Two starts.
That was real fast.
After his first start, I think Tommy said it was 15,000 to 1 or something like that. And now he's the favorite after the second start, right? So now everybody is bought in. Two starts, everybody is in. So I don't think it'll be Mizorowski unless they simply say, because of innings and everything else, we just can't. We can't do this. Like, it's just not going to work. I don't think they will, because I think people will try to burn down American Family Field if they send Jacob Mizorowski down to the minors. So that leaves us with Chad Patrick. Now, Chad Patrick, as I stated, was going just swimmingly fine. Actually, it's been the last three starts. On the 6th of June against the Padres, he went 6 innings, gave up 1 run, struck out 6, 3 walks. At that moment in time, his ERA was 2.84. And everybody was screaming about, my God, you're really going to send Chad Patrick down because Priester's only has one option left? He's going to get screwed in this whole deal, right? Like, I think a lot of us thought Logan Henderson got screwed because Logan Henderson was pitching great when he was up here. After June 6th, things have gone sideways. Then it's the Braves. 5 innings, 5 runs, 2 homers, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. The next game was at the Cubs on the 17th. 5 innings, 4 runs, a home run. The next game last night, 5 innings, 4 runs, a home run, and 9 strikeouts. His ERA has gone up almost a full run from 2.84 to 3.72. His ERA in the month of June now is 6 in the month of June, coming off of an ERA in May of 3.32 in the month of May. My question is, should he be the one that will be sent down when Brandon Woodruff comes back? Nicolay Law Fan Talk at text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app, Facebook, and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee as we broadcast live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I feel like this should be a simple answer. I feel like looking at this based on what have you done for me lately, that Chad Patrick is going to be the one that will get sent down. I think there was talk before that he very well may be the one that gets sent down. And now, after seeing what we've seen the last 3 games, I feel like he has sealed his fate. Charlie Usen?
I think so. I think it's pretty obvious that he's the weak link in that rotation at this moment. The only thing that kind of holds me back a little bit, though, is the fact that Pat Murphy and this coaching staff, or in the front office, seem to have these players that they just love, and they will never give them those short leashes that they give guys like Tobias Myers, who I think there was obviously a rift between him and the coaching staff to some degree. Some of these other players. There's a reason Joey Ortiz is still getting a shot at shortstop despite just now getting going this season. If that was the case where he had the short leash like he did with a Tobias Myers or a Vinny Capra, Joey Ortiz would have been off on the bench at least 2 weeks ago. So I don't really know how they view a guy like Chad Patrick to this point. The fact that he's actually gotten 3 starts and able to get to this point tells me that they really like him and that it may be a harder decision than we're making it out to be.
I think it was a harder decision prior to the last 3 starts. When your ERA is sub 3, like it was after his first start in June, then I think, oh man, like how? Because that's the reason Savali was demoted to the bullpen, right? That was the reason why. And then Savali's like, I'm out of here. Trade me. I'm not going to go to the bullpen. Meanwhile, Ashby's in the bullpen. Looked good last night, folks. He looked good last night. So Ashby's in the bullpen. DL Hall has been up and down a little bit in the bullpen, but that's another starter. So he's in the bullpen. I don't think you could put Patrick in the bullpen. I don't think we're having 3 starters in the bullpen at this point if you're the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the natural deal here is, Chad, you're going back down. That's it. And hopefully you figure things out and you get things back on track again. And then if there's an injury or something along those lines, we go forward. Again, nobody's talking about the fact that Nestor Cortez has not been heard from in a while, right? And at some point, when Nestor Cortez is ready to come back, I would imagine Nestor Cortez will find a role in this rotation regardless of what everybody else in this rotation is looking like right now. Because you've got Freddie Peralta, obviously that's going to do his thing, right? You've got Mizorowski, I think, right now that deserves to stay in this rotation. Even if it's once a week starting like we talked about yesterday because of an innings limit, he's going to be on here at some point. We brought this up yesterday. So Mizorowski obviously is going to be in this conversation. Priester has one option left. Based on all indications, Charlie, they don't want to use it this year. So even though he didn't look good in his last outing necessarily, I think they're going to continue to go with him too.
Well, and they made a real trade for Quinn Priester. I think Chad Patrick is somebody where they kind of feel like they're playing with house money at this point with him, so they can be a little bit more free-handed with him. It's the same thing with a Nestor Cortez. You trade for him. As much as Caleb Durbin has apparently been the centerpiece of that trade this season since Nestor Cortez has been hurt and Devin Williams hasn't played all that well, he wasn't exactly supposed to be. It was supposed to be Nestor Cortez. So you assume that eventually whenever you hear from him, he's going to be slotted in as that number 2 or number 3 starter in that rotation.
The other part about this is Quintana. Now, I will say this. I'm not on the Quintana train. So don't put me in the train of, oh yeah, Quintana's going to be a playoff starter. Nope, not there. I'm not. Like if Quintana gets dealt at the trade deadline, because he's making no money, if they trade Quintana at the deadline in favor of bringing Patrick or Logan Henderson up, I'm in. You go right ahead and trade Quintana to some other team that needs a starting pitcher. I don't care. Trade him to the Cubs. He's been there before. I'll deal with him in Chicago if it's coming down the stretch. Fine, trade him to the Cubs. I'm fine moving off of Quintana. And Nestor Cortez, don't know, right? Nestor Cortez has shown in his career he's looked really good. And Nestor Cortez has shown in his career he can look lost at times. So you don't know which Nestor Cortez you have. But I know this. Chris Hook is the pitching coach. And as I told Charlie before the year, my boy Nestor Cortez, nasty Nestor, he'll be in the Cy Young conversation before it's all said and done. And in typical Sparky Jinx fashion, I got him hurt. And he hasn't pitched since.
Told you.
Took care of that dude right out of there. Out you go, nasty Nestor. So I took care of that. So should Chad Patrick be the one sent down when Woodruff comes back? Because I think you could make an argument that you could trade Quintana and make a move there if you wanted to go in that direction. But Woodruff, Mizorowski, Peralta, those 3, and Priester, it appears because of the option, aren't touchable. So Patrick is the only one that you can option out unless you're willing to move, Quintana in a trade.
Well, and I just don't believe they're willing to move Quintana right now. I think there's a world where, yes, they do move him. I think it'd be very smart to move him. The entire time since he's signed with the Milwaukee Brewers, it's kind of like every time he shows up on the mound, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot he's in this rotation up to this point.
Yep.
Because it feels like they've just been preparing to trade him the entire time since they signed him. It was all just to kind of polish him up to get something back in return. But so if that's the case and they're going to wait till the trade deadline, then it's Chad Patrick gets sent down. If Chad Patrick gets sent down and then they also trade Quintana, that also opens up a world where they can bring Logan Henderson back up into this rotation if they wanted to.
Correct.
Or if Robert Gasser is healthy and they want to bring him back into this
Tobias
rotation.
Myers still
Tobias
down
Myers.
there.
You have
Yes.
other options. I mean, you could do both those things, and I think the Brewers are still going to be okay.
All right, it is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Coming up next, Drew Holiday. Many of your favorite Buck player of all time, it feels like. Because that, how many of you keep bringing it up after Lillard got hurt? Drew Holiday got traded to Portland last night. We will talk about that trade. But this is what I'd like to know. Is Drew Holiday just a really expensive, overpaid role player, really, in the NBA? Is that really all Drew Holiday truly is? Like, is he really maybe more overrated than anything based on pay? No, they've always called him an underrated player. Stars of the NBA have always said he's really underrated. People don't give him his just due. Well, he's getting paid a ton of money. My question is, he's just a really good role player. Maybe he's just really overpaid at this point. That's what I want to know from you. What do you think? Nicolay Law, Fan Talk and Text Line, 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250, Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Sound off, record a voice message on the Odyssey app. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan Studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Time for your fan weather forecast. 75 degrees, mostly cloudy skies right now. And rain, about 42% chance, according to my little app on my phone here. 42% chance at 4 o'clock. 97% chance at 5 o'clock. Now, I'm in Hales Corners, right? Now, I will say this. My kid is supposed to have a baseball practice tonight at 5:30 in Kenosha. And I'm watching the group text among all the parents. They've been cutting grass down there all day and have not had a drop of rain, and the sun is out. What have we had here, Charlie?
Rain since I left here earlier from the Pack-A-Day radio show.
Yes.
All the way since.
And they're like, wow, we're not supposed to have rain down here until like 7 o'clock, so we're having practice. We're like, really? Yep, not a drop of rain. So, again, where you're listening, the weather could be different. I'm just telling you, here where we are, we're supposed to have rain until like 8 o'clock, starting at about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. Then tomorrow, guess what? More rain all day tomorrow and a high of 72. Tonight, a low of 63. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, baby. Served up by Wendy's. Live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Charlie Usen producing the show today. Hoping to have Joe Block on here. We got to send him a text here in a couple of minutes to see if he is good to go at 2:40. The play-by-play voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates, former play-by-play voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. Looking forward to talking to Joe. Hopefully we can make it work out with timing-wise with what he's got for the Pirates and what we have for the radio show. Before we get to that, though, I want to make sure that we are able to talk about this Drew Holiday trade. From time to time, I'm on a morning show out in Portland. Dirt and Sprague, it's called. Sports Talk Morning Show. Brandon Sprague is a guy that I've known for a while. And I only know him because of going on this show all the time. So back when Portland was the team rumored to get Giannis and all of this other nonsense that was going on, he would always have me on. And then they do a segment on the radio show where it's like around the world in sports or whatever. And they check in on the hot topics or whatever. So like during Packer season, I'll go on there all the time. Or if the Brewers or Bucks are in the headlines, I'll go on, whatever. So last night I see the Drew Holiday story. And I'm thinking to myself, well. Drew Holiday traded again. And then I see what the trade is. So we talked about this and have been talking about Boston imploding their roster. Porzingis will get dealt next. Because they're saving money and they know they can't win next year because, why? Because they don't have Jason Tatum, right? Okay, fine. So, Drew Holiday goes to Portland, of all places, for Anthony Simons and a pair of future second-round draft picks. I don't get it. Now, for the last several days, I've not been able to get in my Twitter account. Good news is, right before the show, I was able to finally get into my Twitter account. I will tell you quickly what happened to me, so if it happens to you, you can do something about it. For whatever the reason, I got signed out on my Twitter account on my phone. When I went to sign back in, it wouldn't let me in. It said I needed an authenticator and a code and all this other stuff. Charlie looked at it. Tommy looked at it. People emailed in and called in to Charlie trying to help me figure it out. We could not get me back in the Twitter account. So then I reach out to support and I get a thing that says, you no longer have, what is it called? Two-factor authentication or whatever. You no longer, we disabled it. Perfect. And I was able to sign right in. So if that happens to you and they try to force you to do this two-step crap, just send a thing to support and then they'll stop it. So I had really no way of communicating on Twitter. But the original thought was, what is Portland doing? Like, good job by Boston for getting Anthony Simons. Like, okay, good. That's a young, upcoming player that you can pair with Tatum for years. Like, okay, that makes all the sense in the world. I don't understand Portland. Because, again, when you think of Drew Holiday came here in place of who? Eric Bledsoe. And to get this team over the hump, the steadying factor to help them win a championship, right? Defense first. That was the first thing that we were talking about. And then whatever offense he provides was fine. And we always used to say, well, it's a big three. It's Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis. Big three. That was probably wrong. It was probably more like 2.5. I think it's unfair to categorize Drew Holiday as a member of a big three, if we're being honest with ourselves. Then Drew Holiday goes to Portland in the Lillard deal, never plays. They send him to Boston, and he wins a championship in Boston. As I stated before, he is not a big three. They had Tatum, they had Brown, they had Porzingis, and then they had Drew Holiday. And as you watch their run in the postseason, there was a lot of, man, is Drew Holiday going to score? Man, where's Drew Holiday's offense? And I, throughout that whole championship run, was like, yeah, saw this in Milwaukee. And this is what some of you didn't understand. because Giannis couldn't stay healthy or Middleton couldn't stay healthy, pick, playoffs, it's been Giannis. Because they couldn't stay healthy, they needed to go find a legitimate top scorer to get on this team to get them through when Giannis was hurt. So Lillard was the move. You sacrificed defense, but you needed the offense. So when Portland gets Drew Holiday last night, I was like, why? Y'all were like 15, 20 games under 500 this last season. What are you going to do with Drew Holiday? You're not going to win anything. And then when I texted my guy, Sprag, out there in Portland, he texted me back and goes, I have no idea what they're doing. He goes, but I can tell you, I don't believe they're going to flip him again. So they're rolling with Drew Holiday. And then in Boston, stop me if you've heard this before, I see reports coming out of Boston that, oh man, they're heartbroken because Drew Holiday wanted to live in Boston and stay in Boston and be a part of the family or be a part of the community and so forth. Same thing I heard when he was here. And he very well may mean it everywhere he's been. New Orleans, Milwaukee, Boston. And when this dude is in your town, this dude does a ton of off-court stuff, him and his wife. They are great community people. He's a great teammate to play with. Everybody says positive things. But he ain't a big three. He's not at that level of he's going to go get you whenever you need something, he's going to go get it. He's just not there. I mean, he's not a tier 1, he's not a tier 2. I don't think he's even a tier 3 if we're being honest. Is Drew Holiday just a really good role player that's overpaid at this point? Is that what we're talking about? Is Drew Holiday just a really good role player that's getting paid a whole bunch of more money than maybe he deserves at this point? Because I'll be honest, that's what I think he is. He's just a really good role player. And with him, he can help move you to a next level. Nicolay Law Fan talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app. Of course, you can stream us on YouTube and watch us live there as well. Go on YouTube at The Fan Milwaukee. Use the @ symbol at The Fan Milwaukee, and you can stream us on YouTube all the way up until we're off the air today at 5 o'clock. All local shows now streamed on The Fan that you can check out. Joe Block, play-by-play voice of the Pirates, I think will be able to join us here in the next 10 minutes. Charlie is working on that. We'll see if we're able to make that come through. If he can't join us, we have somebody else that will be able to join us. Is Drew Holiday just a really good role player in your mind, Charlie Usen? Has he been kind of overrated by everybody based on what's happened in Milwaukee and in Boston?
I wouldn't say he's been overrated. I think the entire time when he got traded to Milwaukee, when he got traded to Boston, when he got traded to Milwaukee, he was supposed to be the third option to Giannis and Chris Middleton, which he was, which I think doesn't really exactly make him a star at that point. I think when he was traded to Boston, he was supposed to be the third or even the fourth option.
Which he was.
To Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum,
$30 million he made this year.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but he does best, he does it the best in like the whole league. He's one of the best defensive point guards in the league. He's going to help out the defense behind him. He's going to be one of the better facilitators and the middlemen in that style of offense, especially with a team like Boston or like Milwaukee. He's doing everything that a role player does. He is what I think Desmond Bane is, and I think Desmond Bane probably could end up being better than a Drew Holiday, but I don't think anybody's really been overrating him to any degree. I think what he is what he is, which is a really good role player, which isn't a bad thing.
No, I didn't say being a really good role player is a bad thing. I'm talking about the money versus what you get. Drew Holiday's making $30 million this year, $32.4 million in 25-26. $34.8 million in 26-27, and in 27-28, a player option, which he will surely pick up, of $37.2 million. Just see Middleton pick up his $30+ million option playing that crappy Wizards team. Connaughton a couple days ago picked up his $9 million option. Listen, folks, these players do not care where they're playing. If they know they can't get as much in the open market, they're going to take their player option, even if they're on a bad team like Middleton is at this point. And from a Wizard standpoint, they knew he was going to opt in when they traded for him, right? But what he brings to that locker room is something completely different. I mean, since he got there last year, they started playing way better after Middleton showed up in that locker room. And Coincidence? Whatever. But he definitely helped out that Wizards team. This situation here with Holiday, you brought up an interesting point as far as what Portland's looking for.
I think Portland right now with Scoot Henderson, the former number 2 overall pick, he's been relatively disappointing in his first 2 seasons. I think right now they're trying to recreate what Oklahoma City did when they traded for a Chris Paul and get a mentor for a player like Scoot Henderson. I think Drew Holiday very much could be that for Scoot. I think Drew Holiday is a former Rookie of the Year. He's a guy who has, like I said, been a phenomenal defender, which is something Scoot Henderson has struggled with. And Drew Holiday, throughout his career, especially as he's gotten older, has been one of the more consistent offensive threats on a team. It's not a lot of points, but he's going to give you in that 10-point range or more, which is kind of like a TJ McConnell style player, which is what I think they're looking for in Scoot Henderson to get better at. So if Portland does want to keep Drew Holiday around throughout this whole process, which I think if they were to get offered a big trade for him, which teams can offer bigger trades to Portland than they could to Boston to get a guy like Drew Holiday back in return, then if they decide to keep him, he'll be the perfect fit for that. Now, I don't think he'll do what Chris Paul did and make this team one of the most surprising teams in the entire league. I don't really think he changes their record all that much, but I think individually he helps a guy like Scoot Henderson a ton.
He is Charlie Usin, C. Sparky Fifer with you. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Do you love Taki Fuego chips? Listen up, because you've never had them like this. Wendy's new Taki Fuego meals are here. This Sammy has the Taki Fuego chip intensity you love, piled up on one of their fan favorite spicy chicken sandwiches with Taki Fuego chips, chili lime sauce, and creamy corn spread. The small Fuego fries get tossed in an intense chili lime seasoning. It's almost like this meal couldn't take any more Taki Fuego chip intensity. That's where the extra 1-ounce bag of Taki Fuego chips on the side comes in. Well, while supplies last, at least, you can grab this Taki Fuego meal at midnight or later. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. I now go to Charlie Usin, who now has to make a decision on where and what we are doing next. I feel confident he will tell us we will have somebody to talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates. The question is, who will we be talking to next, Charlie Usin?
So, Joe Black, I think we had a little bit of a time miscommunication when we were texting earlier with him before the show. So, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get him.
I see, this is my fault. I'll take blame. Normally, when I text people, I'll put 2:40 Central, 3:40 Central. Because I know he's Pittsburgh time. I put Pittsburgh time, which I shouldn't have because they're here. So, I should have put Central. God,
yeah, I think he was under the impression you were talking Central Time. So
such an idiot. So he could do 3:40 then.
He can.
Okay,
yes.
tell him.
He told me to text him again at 3:25 again.
Fine. So. Okay, so we will have Joe Block at 3:40.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. So
is that the plan?
That is. So then we will have Tim Benz of Breakfast with Benz for the Trib Sports out in Pittsburgh.
Now, we are going to see this. These are going to be 2 totally different conversations.
Yes.
I'm telling you right now. Because Benz, listen, Joe's with the Pirates. He's an employee of the Pirates. I can't talk to Joe and go talk about his owner, right? I can't do that. I could ask him about Aaron Rodgers, but Benz, on the other hand, we can go into all of this stuff with Benz, right? So we'll talk with Tim Benz. Breakfast with Benz for the Tribune Sports in Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I believe, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He comes up next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. Charlie User producing the show, other side of the glass. Going to be joined by Tim Benz, Breakfast with Benz from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Joe Block, the play-by-play voice of the Pirates, hoping to have him join us at 3:40. Normally Charlie's sounds of the day, so we will have to move Charlie's sounds of the day to make this work. We didn't really play any highlights earlier in the show at 2 o'clock when we were talking about this game and talking about Chad Patrick. But I don't know if you all didn't see this Terang play. Whoo, Google it.
3-2. Slow roller, right side, tough play. Terang fields, throws to third now, and they will get him. What a heads-up play by Bryce Terang.
Terang, I'm telling you, he charged. Everybody thought he was going to first. Instead of going to first, he spun and went to third to get the runner going from second to third. And I'm telling you, the throw was on the money. Like, Durbin caught the ball in his glove, and the dude sliding in, his spike slid right into Durbin's glove as he was coming to third base. You could not have done that any more flawlessly than what Bryce Terang did at that moment and time. It was an incredible play by Bryce Terang. I don't think I've ever seen anybody pull that type of play off in an actual game. The other thing that stood out last night, Christian Yelich doing his thing.
Green light. Drives it down the line. If it's fair, it's gone. It is a fair ball, and we're tied. He was going on 3-0.
Yes, he was, and he killed it. Christian Yelich with a 2-run homer. Both those highlights courtesy of FanDuel Sports Network Wisconsin. I will tell you this. Christian Yelich, and we're going to talk more about Christian Yelich coming up next hour. Christian Yelich is hitting over 360 in the month of June right now. Over 360. He's on pace to hit 30 home runs on the year after he got off to a really sluggish start for the first, month and a half, 2 months? Now, all of a sudden, it looks like he's kind of rounding back into form of several years ago. We'll see if he can hold on to that going forward. Joining us now on the Nicolay Law Fan Talking text line, he is Tim Benz, Breakfast with Benz from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Follow him on Twitter at Tim Benz PGH. Tim Benz PGH. Tim, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no sweat. Trib Live, actually, not PG.
Oh,
Trib
Live. Got you. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let me. I want to start off first with the Pirates and how this fan base is dealing with what's currently going on. Because from a Brewers fan perspective, you could say we've been spoiled. Small market, have been, in the playoffs relatively consistently, I guess, for the last 10 or 15 years. Haven't been able to get to a World Series or anything like that. Keep getting booted out in the first round, but relatively successful. You all have had your struggles, and now you've got an absolute stud in Paul Skeens, and these fools on TV are trying to get him traded out of Pittsburgh right away after a year. I can't imagine what the fan base is like and what it's going through at this point.
Yeah, I think there's, a lot there to unpack. I guess the Skeens angle is the easiest thing to approach first, and yet no one likes to talk about the prospect of what will be, but it does feel like he's on the most expensive internship in all of American history.
Yep.
He's a first-round pick. He got a huge signing bonus, and everybody feels like this is his warm-up act to wherever he goes next. It feels very similar to what the Garrett Cole situation was, only that Skeens is delivering his best this early. Actually, you could look back and say maybe Cole did some of that too as a Pirate and then got better once he left, but it does feel like already it'll be a fait accompli. It's a matter of when he leaves, not if. It's a matter of how many years into arbitration, if he even gets there before he goes. I don't think it'll be this year. I think that was a little alarmist, but I know where it comes from. And the logic is if he's not going to be there, the quicker you get rid of him, the more you're going to get back in return. But I think there's a ceiling for that. And if he's as good as we all think he's going to be, he'll be worth an incredible haul by the time he gets to his first arbitration or whenever it is they decide to trade him after 4 years, 5 years here, as was the case with Garrett Cole. So I still think he'll command a ridiculous sum from whoever wants to get him if the Pirates do hold on to him for a few more years, provided his arm stays in good shape, and so far has.
The owner of the Milwaukee Brewers said earlier this year that drew the wrath of me and many Brewers fans when talking about payroll and salary and all of that. Pretty much was from the aspect of, hey, look, my job is to provide a summer of fun and entertainment for the fans, and that's what we've been able to do each and every year. And the fans absolutely lost their mind and were like, no, your job is to provide us a World Series champion, or at least die trying to get a World Series champion at the end of the day. What does the Pirates owner Bob Nutting say to fans as far as what he's trying to get accomplished?
Well, it's funny, when you started saying that, my mind wandered to what the owner across the parking lot has been saying whenever it's football season. Like this year, when there's great criticism for the Steelers for yet again being over 500 in the playoffs, but failing to win a playoff game for the 8th year in a row and the 12th time in the last 14 seasons. The response, the serve and volley between the fans and the owner sounded very similar to what you just described. There are lots of complaints about the rut the Steelers are in. And at one point, Art Rooney kind of looked at one of the reporters that was asking questions and said to her, we've done some winning around here. Well, yeah, in 2008, or if you want to constitute playoff wins, there haven't been too many of those since they lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl. Now, as far as what Nutting says, he just spins the same tales that he's always spun, which is, we're moving in the right direction. We have faith in the people that are in the baseball offices. We know it's time to start winning. And it's political BS at this point. I mean, like, he'll stare you in the face and he's lying to you and he knows he's lying to you. And you just sort of, if you want a good night at the ballpark once or twice a year, you go, maybe when Skeens is pitching, and that's about it. He can try to convince people, but no one, let me rephrase that. Some people may still allow themselves to be convinced just because they want to be. Anyone who is the least bit of a critical thinker never will be.
Man, I can't. Listen, I'm old enough, I'm coming up on 50 next year. So I've lived through the Bud Selig era. When the Brewers went to the World Series in 82, I was 6. I don't remember much of that at all. Got old newspapers and stuff that my aunt saved for me, so I've got that. They got the Just a Bit Outside Brewers documentary now, which is amazing if you've never seen it, on that 82 Brewers team with all the personalities and all of that, and that's great. But 26 years of not making the playoffs for the Brewers, 11 straight years of not even being 500 for the Brewers, and then they finally make the playoffs, they get Sabathia, and they turn it around. And all of that happened mainly because when Wendy Ziegler was in charge, she hired Doug Melvin. And then when Mark Attanasio took over as owner, he kept Doug Melvin. They built a farm system. They got themselves back in position. They had a great marketing guy and still do, and Rick Schlesinger, president of business operations here, that came up with all the bobbleheads and everything else and made it a goal of sending buses literally to local colleges and busing in college kids to these games to make it easier for them to get to games, and kind of built it from there. But along the way, those guys in the farm system had to do winning of some sort with Braun and Fielder and those guys. I mean, from your perspective, is there enough on the farm to get excited about? We're like, okay, when this wave gets here, we're going to have 4 or 5 years before we lose a lot of these guys, but we'll be able to win and sustain something maybe.
No, because there's not enough bats in the system. What they do have, and in a weird way it's a bitter irony because it's the hardest thing to find, is they do have good young starting pitching, not just Skeens, but Bubba Chandler is one of the best prospects in baseball, though he's kind of been a little wayward here of late as he's stalled in AAA. Jared Jones, before his arm injury, was somebody that was really blossoming. Mitch Keller, there's no way he should only have one win on the season. He's not been great, but he's been better than that. I mean, they've got other intriguing arms like Braxton Ashcraft, who pitched yesterday. They've got guys who are intriguing and you can see be a good rotation for quite a while, and that's something that most teams covet. They just don't have any bats. Connor Griffin, I guess the former first-round pick, who's in high A now, he might be something, but beyond him, it's Tamar Johnson, who's yet another middle infielder, and what will he do when he comes up? There's not a lot of promise with the bats, and You should be able to find those in free agency if you're willing to spend at all, but they have not shown any interest in trying to have a foundation of offensive support for these pitchers. And that's really what drove people crazy this offseason, the utter inactivity while they've got the golden goose and they're not willing to build around it. And that's really made people mad.
Tim Benz, Breakfast with Benz, also writes for, of course, Trib Live. Follow him on Twitter at Tim Benz, PGH. I switch gears since you are a columnist and talk about all things Pittsburgh. I want to dive into the Steelers thing that you brought up. And Aaron Rodgers, I pray for you, pray for everybody else that has to cover this dude. We lived through all of it, him being on McAfee and everything that goes along with it. What was the initial reaction from the Steelers fan base?
Well, the Steelers fan base largely was not on board with this. Of course, once he finally signed and reported, everybody's acting like they've wanted it the whole time. But that's just typical of a fan base that, every year we get Latrobe flu around here. Whenever it looks like they're heading out to St. Vincent for training camp, whatever bitterness extended from the previous year's playoff failure and what they didn't like about the offseason tends to go out the window. We talked ourselves into Russell Wilson being an answer. We talked ourselves into Justin Fields being an answer. We were ready to talk ourselves into Mason Rudolph being the answer for his second time around. We talked ourselves into Mitch Trubisky being the answer. I mean, it's just it's what we've done ever since Ben Roethlisberger retired. It's just part of being a fan around here. And a lot of that's handed down from what we saw before Ben, when we kept talking ourselves into Cordell's the guy, or maybe Tom Zach can get us through. Whatever the case was.
My goodness!
Maybe they really did find something in Tommy Maddox.
There you go.
We do this, or maybe we do. Maybe we just do this so much it's out of habit. But I think you are starting to see if it's acceptance, it's acceptance. If it's blind fandom, it's blind fandom. But the angst and anger towards the Steelers for letting Rodgers play him for as much as they did during the offseason in terms of when does he want to report, when does he want to get here, as silly as the Steelers looked, it's all forgotten because maybe he's better than Russ, or maybe he's better than Fields, and maybe he's better than Trubisky. And if he can just get into the playoffs at 10-7, gosh darn it, maybe his arm is still live enough that he can be the quarterback who finally gets a win. Of course, we do overlook the fact that even when they've gotten into the playoffs, whenever they've scratched in, they've lost handily in just about every game they've played since Ben hurt his elbow, whenever they've been fortunate enough to even get in the first place. So I don't think that they are a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers away from making a sustained playoff run. I'm sorry, I just can't talk myself into that.
Okay, well, I have one last one for you on the Steelers, and that is Mike Tomlin. You talked about go to the playoffs every year, lose. Go to the playoffs every year, lose. But he's one of the most successful coaches, in the league. He's probably the longest tenured coach in the league with the Steelers. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, no question about that. Are people anxious about him still being the head coach, or are people fine with him remaining the head coach for as long as he wants to be the head coach?
They know that the latter is the case. They feel the former.
Oh.
What you just outlined there, I mean, anxious isn't the word I'd use. Angry is. There's a lot of angry Steelers fans that Mike Tomlin seems to have carte blanche to be the coach here for however long he likes, because we have fallen into this web of mediocrity. And, I'll say it to you because you brought it up. I mean, I'm not trying to challenge you too much here, but it's sort of anybody who's outside of Pittsburgh just cavalierly or haphazardly says one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's never had a losing season, but does one of the best coaches in the NFL go 12 or 14 years without a playoff win?
That's true, but how many coaches could say they've been to the playoffs in that time frame that many times?
A lot more than you think. I mean, go through the AFC and see how many teams have a playoff win since the Steelers have had theirs.
No. I mean appearance-wise. How many teams have had as many appearances as Tomlin in that same time frame?
Not as many. I mean, sure, not as many. But again, I don't know how many coaches get 14 cracks and get 2 years where they've won the playoffs, but won a game in the playoffs. I mean, 12 years of not winning a playoff game over a 14-year stretch, and an 8-year stretch without a playoff victory. I mean, we haven't seen that since 3 years before the Immaculate Reception around here.
Goodness.
So, people are and also you have to keep in mind that of that 14-year stretch, what was it? 9 of those years, Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback. You had a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you still couldn't get one. So it's a little bit more of a dubious record in the years since they lost the Packers in Dallas than what would be suggested by a guy who goes 9-8 or 10 wins every year and gets to say he's never had a losing season. There have been a couple. 2018, you go 7-2-1, and you don't get a playoff win because you choke down the stretch and you go 9-6-1 of the season, or even the year with Duck and Mason. Everybody's like, oh, he got to 8-8 with Duck and Mason. Well, that's pretty good. Well, they also lost the last 3 games, including on the road to the Jets. They turned the ball over 5 times in the red zone against the Bills, and then they lost the Ravens' backups. It's like there are extreme black marks along the way as to how these teams under Tomlin have failed to win a playoff game as frequently as they have. It's a lot more beneath the surface than what I think people outside of Pittsburgh understand. They just see, well, he gets to the playoffs quite often. He's never had a losing season, so he's got to be a great coach. Well, there's a but to that. That's a heck of a lot deeper. That's second nature to folks here in Pittsburgh who have lived it, but maybe not outside of the Three Rivers.
That's good stuff. Tim Benz, Breakfast with Benz, and of course follow him on Twitter at Tim Benz, PGH on Twitter. Tim, thanks so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Take care. There he is, Tim Benz on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Live from the 1250 AM on 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, which has 6,500 square feet, a 2,000 square foot center screen, a beautiful Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen. You got all kinds of different food options, all-day brunch, homemade pastries and desserts made on premise every day. Right there, man. 48 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails. And as always, I tell you, I recommend to you, please reserve your seat ahead of time because they get busy. And that way you'll be guaranteed somewhere to sit when you get there, or get a table for 4, or get a big booth for 6 to 8, whatever the case may be. There is a nominal fee, obviously, when you do that, but that goes towards your food and beverage costs for that day. So it's not like, oh, I give you money just to reserve and then I don't get that money back. No, you get all that back at food and beverage when you get there. So take advantage of it today. Go to Potawatomi.com/sportsbook, Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. More conversation about Christian Yelich and what is going on with him here in the month of June and what it means going forward. We'll discuss that. Plus, Andrew Wagner texted me during that interview. We are now moving him to 4:20 because Pat Murphy is talking at 3:30. So this is what it looks like currently of how we're going to do this. We're going to do Yelich here at 3 o'clock. Then we're going to go to Charlie Sounds of the day at 3:20. And then cross your fingers, Joe Block is good for 3:40, the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates and former voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. That's all straight ahead here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Steve Sparky Fifer with you.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer, served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2. And this is a different setup for hour number 2. Normally, Charlie sounds today at 3:40. We're going to move that back to 3:20 and try and make room for Joe Block, voice of the Pirates. We're hoping to get on here at 3:40, former voice of the Brewers. So looking forward to that. We're going to start off this hour as we broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, talking about Christian Yelich. Because this dude deserves to be talked about. I'll tell you that much right now. Last night, if you missed it, showing some power again.
Green light. Drives it down the line. If it's fair, it's gone. It is a fair ball, and we're tied. He was going on 3-0.
Christian Yelich has been on an absolute tear to this point. Yeah, the Brewers lost last night, but Christian Yelich continues to keep it rolling. Now, to give you an idea of what this is really looking like, let's go back, Charlie Usen. Let's go back to April. In April, he hit 77. Actually, March, 77. He was 1 for 13 in the first 4 games of the year. All losses by the Milwaukee Brewers, who then won 4 in a row right after that. In the month of April, he had 240 with a 345 on base, 427 slugging, is what he ended up having. And let's see here. He had 5 home runs. So he had some power in the month of April. Now we get to May. Now it's starting to warm up a little bit. 245 again. His on base was 292. 462 slugging in that month. 7 more homers. So he has shown that he's got some pop and the power is still there, but he couldn't get everything else to go along with it. Now we get to the month of June. Sit down, relax. You can see watching us on YouTube on the at The Fan Milwaukee YouTube page is the @ symbol, The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. We stream all of our local shows live now. We started this on late Friday afternoon. If you want to see our beautiful faces and watch us on YouTube, you can. I'm standing, even though it may look like I'm sitting because I'm so short. Christian Yelich, after last night, is hitting 364 in the month, 432 on base, 576 slugging percentage, folks. Are you kidding me? 3 home runs. So his power went away a little bit. But 364, 432 on base, Charlie? This dude is a monster right now that people have to deal with.
That's awesome. You love to see that type of production. That's what we've been talking about. If he can get going, you feel like everybody else can get going just off of that. This feels really good.
But don't you remember? Toe tap. Oh, leg kick. We're going to get rid of the leg. Oh, toe tap again. He couldn't make up his mind what he wanted to do, right? He would switch. Now it looks like after all that, messing around, it looks like now we've finally made it work a little bit here for Christian Yelich. The question is simple. Do you think Yelich can return to being the feared hitter that he used to be? Can he be that guy in the middle of this Brewers lineup that pitchers simply do not want to deal with? Guys on base, open base, take your base. We have no interest in pitching to you, Mr. Yelich. Can we get to that level again? Because if the answer is yes, offense can be pretty dang good. I'm not saying he's going to hit 360 every month, but if he hits 300 every month, if he hits 300 in July, 300 in August, 300 in September, and hits 5-6 home runs a month, that's going to be a problem for the rest of Major League Baseball if he's back like that. Nicolay Law, Fan Talk and Text Line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app. Charlie will always check that and play those back if we have any. Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. And we have live chat going on our YouTube as well in the live streaming. So if you go onto the live streaming, right, and you have it up and you're watching it and you're like, I don't want to go on my phone and tweet or whatever, you can just type right there into the live chat, and we'll read your live chats on the air as well through YouTube. So lots of different ways that you can get interactive. I personally prefer a phone call. I know that's like not the way of sports talk radio anymore, but I prefer talking to people on the radio that way versus reading stuff. But I'll do whichever way you'd like to communicate. That phone number again, 414-677-1250. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. No. I want to be there. I do. I want to be there. I want to believe in Christian Yelich. I want to get on the bandwagon and go, he is fixed. He is back to his old self after all these years. Here we go. I can't have my heart broken again. I can't. Last year, I was there last year on this show. I was like, man, I think we're here. This is the closest MVP Yelich we've seen. Here we go. And what happened? Got hurt. And it was over. I really didn't get hurt. He's been battling that back issue for a couple of years. But Ned decided he was going to get it taken care of because it was so bad. So off goes Christian Yelich to the IL. We have no Christian Yelich for the playoffs. And the Brewers are done. And I got my heart broken again. So coming off of last year in a spring training, they're like, the back is fixed. Here we go. And in spring training, you saw the power. Granted, it's Arizona, ball carries, whatever. But you saw the power coming from Yelich. And again, I'm telling Charlie, man, if he looks like he did in the first half last year, this is going to be good. And it was a disaster for the first 2 months. Remember, we were 2 or 3 weeks in. He's at like $170 something. Everybody's like, oh, Christian Yelich sucks. It's all over. And I'm on the radio going, come on, man. This dude ain't hitting $170 something for 6 months. There's no way. Well, then by the time we got to the middle of May, I'm like, oh, no. Like, dude, we're a month and a half in. It still doesn't look like he's figured out anything at this point. He looks just as lost, and he's been switching what he's doing. I was getting concerned that maybe he was really, really screwed up and couldn't figure this out. Thank goodness he figured it out. Now we're talking about keeping it going forward and seeing what happens after this. Do you think Yelich can return to being the feared hitter that he used to be? Nikolay Love fan talk and text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Don't forget Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke. They do their award-winning, well, they haven't won an award yet, but they will. Wisconsin Sports Weekend Show, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. I want to remind you of this because Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke have all of these different features on their show, and they talk about all these different things. What's that one? Pixmore?
Mount Pixmore, yep.
Mount Pixmore. Well, do you pick like daily picks of like Christian Yelich is going to hit a home run in today's game? Is that a part of it, daily fantasy? Or what are we doing on Mount Pixmore?
It's the weekend fantasy is what we're doing. So we each pick 2 picks for the weekend slate of games that are coming up.
So you want a Potawatomi and bet on?
We do prize picks.
Oh, so you do daily picks.
Yep,
so it's daily fantasy.
Yeah,
then.
we're doing it, but just for those specific slate
so
of games.
So it's daily fantasy is what you're doing. How many times have you picked Yelich to hit a home run?
Once.
You did?
Once. Yep.
And?
He did not hit it in that weekend, no.
I don't know. Like I feel like at some point here you feel really good. Like Cal Raleigh, the catcher, is just on fire. He's got 32 home runs or something like that. I mean, he's insane right now.
I've been having a little more fun with it personally. Like last week I went with darts, but there wasn't any darts for this upcoming week, so I couldn't go with darts again. So then I went with Canadian
What do you mean
football.
You went with darts? Like you put up a bunch of numbers and threw darts at a wall?
No. So
I was going to say, don't throw darts at a wall in here, please.
One of my picks was for Luke Littler and Luke Humphreys, which are on the England national team of darts. And you can pick them and
stop talking, because I'm going to have to pull you off the air if I hear about this anymore. We're going to move on.
It was awesome.
Oh, no, we're done.
It was so much fun to watch.
I don't care. KJ and West Allis, please don't talk darts with me. What's up, KJ?
Hey, what's going on, Sparky? Good to be with you today.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's undeniable, Sparky, that right now Christian Yelich is really, really hot. It depends on the level and degree of success that you're alluding to. I mean, if you're talking about him perhaps being MVP level or, on the cusp of that, I don't know. I don't know if he'll ever be that again. He certainly is hot right now. The problem is the Brewers have to get guys hot around him, because the problem is they're going to pitch around him because he is so hot. So you got to get guys like Churio and Contreras going, or else, there's no protection for him. They're just going to pitch around him, and that'll be that. You know what I mean? So, I think that Christian Yelich can probably keep it going. I don't know if he's going to be at a 30-plus home runs.
Yes, I think he's good. I think he's going to be at over 30. 30 or right over 30, yes. Right
around 30, right around that, I would say. But, like I say, to get everyone else going at the same time is probably, the most operative thing for the Brewers. And right now, it's the bottom of the lineup, actually, that's producing more than the top.
Exactly.
So, so hopefully we can get the guys that are supposed to be, the power hitters, Hoskins and the like, to get going a little bit more than they are.
Well, see, that's an interesting point that you bring up, KJ. Thanks for the call. It's an interesting point. Because we say, okay, Yelich is the guy. He's the feared hitter. Well, like when there was Braun and Fielder, right? Braun had the protection of Prince the whole time. And when they flopped Braun and Fielder in that lineup because Ken Maka decided to do it, they both all of a sudden started going sideways, and then they went in there and said, no, this isn't going to work. And then he flipped them back, right? But Braun thrived, I'm sure, on that protection of having Fielder. And if you have a legit hitter behind you, which William Contreras has shown he can be, that can definitely help Yelich to see some pitches too, to a certain degree, of nothing else. And then if you do decide I'm going to intentionally walk Yelich, if Contreras can start making people pay regularly for that, they'll start having second thoughts on wanting to walk Yelich to get to Contreras. So you're right in the aspect of Contreras himself is going to play a big role in this offense too.
I think when you look at the rest of this team, though, Contreras still doesn't, at this moment in this season right now, put that same kind of fear as a Prince Fielder or Ryan Braun does in that spot. I think you still need to go and find somebody else who can give you that. I think William Contreras gives you a lot more fear as maybe the setup guy for Christian Yelich than at that point. Maybe you start flipping around. Maybe William Contreras is batting earlier in the lineup and Christian Yelich is right behind him in that way.
Right.
I think you just need to start moving stuff around here and make Christian Yelich that deadly player, the player that you don't want to intentionally walk somebody in front of him is because you have to get to that guy next.
But that's the other thing. You've got Churio right there in front of him. So, hear me out. The better Yelich is doing, shouldn't that mean Jackson Churio should go and take off?
You would think so.
That's what it should mean, right?
Right.
Well, let's look. Because that's not what's happened.
No.
Jackson Churio has not necessarily taken off. And in fact, last night, his last at bat, I think it was the 7th inning, I want to say, when he struck out, you could really see the frustration setting in on him with what's been going on. And again, he hasn't been playing horrible necessarily. Churio in the month of May was not good, 237. Here in the month of June, he's hitting 262 with a 292 on base, 464 slugging for Jackson Churio with 3 home runs. Now, he did put together, let's see, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-game hitting streak earlier in this month that ended on Saturday. But in the last 3 games, he is 1 for his last 13. In the last 3 games is Jackson Churio. And that is where you need Jackson Churio. If Yelich is going to be this hot and you start to see more things, more pitches in front of you that normally you wouldn't see if you didn't have a really good hitter behind you, should mean that Jackson Churio should take a step. That has not happened yet. If it does happen and Churio gets hot while Yelich is hot, then this offense really is going to start cooking at that moment and time. Coming up next, Charlie's Sounds of the Day. It's top 3 selections from around the world of sports. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Time for your fan weather forecast brought to you by Utke Heating and Cooling. Right now, 80 degrees outside. It looks like chances of rain coming up at 7, 8. Well, I'll just say from 7 o'clock on the remainder of the night. Doesn't look like it's a ton of rain, but it looks like definitely some rain coming up after 7 o'clock. Low tonight of 64. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Live from the 1250 AM at 1057 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here, Charlie use it over there. Andrew Wagner, Forbes Sports Brewers writer, brought to you by Focus Baseball. Sign up for your kids so they get their tryout in with Focus Baseball, year-round training academy. Start as early as age 6. All the way up through high school. Tryouts going on, coming up here in July. FocusBaseball.com. Good dudes, good coaches. A lot of fun. You will enjoy yourself over there for sure, and you'll definitely enjoy the coaches that they have over there coaching your kids. So that comes up at 4:20. Normally he's at 3:20, but we had to move him to 4:20 today because we have Joe Block, voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. That is confirmed. He joins us here in about 20 minutes. Hey, mornings can all start to feel the same, so if you're looking for a fresh wake-up call, look no further than Wendy's Breakfast. Try a breakfast Baconator with fresh cracked eggs and crispy bacon, a grilled sausage breakfast burrito, or maybe even a honey buddy. Don't even think about sleeping on Wendy's seasoned potatoes, English muffins. Doesn't matter what you go for, it's gonna change your life. Okay, well, it's at least gonna freshen up your morning. Ready for a fresh wake-up call? It's got to be Wendy's.
What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged?
1, 2, 3.
laughter ensue. It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on The Fan.
All right, let's get to it. Charlie using top 3 clips from around the world of sports. What say you?
All right, so first up, we're going to start by a comment that was put into the YouTube live stream. He says, Sparky, Pablo
Lord.
Torre has a story of the year proving NFL collusion. Well, don't worry, Russell, in the YouTube live stream. I actually have the clip of Pablo Torre talking about collusion in the NFL. It has to do with J.C. Tretter, the president of the NFL
Former Packer.
Players Association, and him covering up some texts he sent out that resulted in Russell Wilson maybe not getting the money he deserved this offseason.
4 union sources believe is that J.C. Tretter, this once and future leader, in his mind, of the NFLPA, didn't want to be publicly documented saying this stuff about one of his fellow members. If J.C. Tretter is privately trashing players, the question is whether players can still trust his process.
But is it reason? Is it proper reason to keep this information from agents, players, people who could take this and parlay it into something that would be good for all players? And if nothing else, put the league on the defensive and make them be more careful and make them not attempt to collude and not actually collude at these management council meetings, and maybe take a step back and ask themselves, should we even have a management council, because everything we're doing here is kind of collusive? By hiding all of that, if it's true that it was just done to protect J.C. Tretter from having to deal with the blowback of saying what he said about Russell Wilson, that in and of itself to me is inexcusable if that's true.
Maybe even more pressing than what this does to the odds of J.C. Tretter's, future dream job is what this quote actually meant in the context of this real-life collusion investigation. Because what I'm told is that the owners actually used J.C. Tretter blaming Russell Wilson as evidence of non-collusion. Because what J.C. Tretter is saying there, to be very clear about this, is that the reason Russell Wilson didn't get a fully guaranteed contract is because he's not smart enough, not strategic enough to push hard enough for it. And not because the owners were colluding against Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or the players. J.C. Tretter was blaming the player instead of the owners. And the owners were like, this feels like a very helpful bit of evidence for what we're trying to prove, which is that this case should be dismissed. And by the way, not unrelatedly, the case ultimately was.
What's the story?
So that
I listened to the whole thing. Let me see if I got this right. So a former player, is trashing a current player to people in higher places around the league. And said player or whoever is mad that he was getting trashed by said player, so thinks that everybody was colluding against him from getting a job at the end of the day. Is that the gist of the story?
So Russell Wilson isn't mad about this. The NFLPA is mad about this.
Well,
and
they're the ones that put Tretter in the position.
that's why they're frustrated with this whole situation, because J.C. Tretter is out here trashing the players publicly. So Russell Wilson isn't really out here doing this, but the NFLPA is frustrated that they think the owners are colluding against them right now, and that Russell Wilson's contract is evidence because of that. This is all in these documents that are currently being looked
Listen,
over.
I shouldn't say this on the radio, but how smart really are we here? What are we doing? Just stop. I mean, we're just looking for a reason to be mad about something. There's nothing to be mad about here. You're telling me that you believe that there are players in this league that don't do this already? You don't think, you don't think that players in this league don't reach out to GMs or coaches on staffs and like, dude, you don't want that dude in your locker room. I know how you all operate. He's a problem, man. I had him here with me in here, and that is not the Packer way, blah, 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 right? Or, man, I know that offense. That dude is not smart enough to run that offense. I don't think this is a good idea. You don't think that stuff happens already? I guarantee you that stuff happens already.
That's
why these coaches talk to these players and everything else. The issue is that because it's J.C.
Exactly.
Tretter at the top, who, by the way, is a former player, teammate, whatever you want to say, who has his beef with this dude, like I'm sure many other players in the league have beef with Russell Wilson, right? And I'm sure many other players in the league were reaching out to the coaching staff, telling them the same thing J.C. Treader was probably telling them about Russell Wilson as well. But because of who he is, now we're going to go grasping for straws and trying to figure out how we can make some money off of it. It's crap. It's total crap. It's a non-story. Just throw it out, set it on fire, and let's move on. This whole thing is stupid. I understand you're mad and you're trying to figure out a way to get more money for yourselves and whatever else. You feel betrayed by your guy and all this. Wasn't there a whole bunch of betrayal and all this crap going on with Troy Vincent years ago, too? Same thing. People were mad at Troy Vincent. Now he's in the league office or whatever he's doing in the NFL. Again, like, you put him in the position. If you don't want that to happen, then don't put a player in the position that he's in. Then find somebody that has never played with any of these guys, that doesn't know anybody, that's got no beef with anybody, that isn't going to say anything. Make Charlie in charge of it. He played. Didn't play in the NFL. He don't know any of you. So he ain't going to run his mouth to any owner one way or the other about what you're like as a teammate or what you're like off the field when the team is on the road or whatever. Like, none of that's going to come out. So if you don't want to deal with that, don't make it a former player. Because I promise you, no matter who the former player is, running the top of that thing, all of you, whoever it is going to have their mouth running about whoever, just like a lot of others do, to the coaches they know around the league. Because everybody knows everybody, man. It's one big fraternity. It's no different in basketball. It's no different in baseball. It's no different in hockey, I'm sure, even though I'm not as clued in as hockey. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody talks to everybody. Before free agency happens, before, for instance, the NBA, you have free agency coming up after the draft this week, right? That comes up here at the beginning of July. And then you have the tampering period. And before that, again, everybody's already talking. So before you get to that point, I could all but guarantee you that a Doc Rivers, Billy Donovan, just using coaches from the area, have probably already talked to several guys on their own teams or other teams that they've coached with before, asking about, hey, man, we're thinking about giving the mid-level exception to this guy. You play with him. What did you think? Dude, he's a dog, man. You don't want that dude. Dog, not in a good way, dog. Like, he's a dog. Like, he's going to take the check, and then he ain't going to play hard. He don't like practicing. He hates practicing. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. We're out. We're not taking him. Same thing. That happens all the time. This dude is under heat, Treader, because he's at the top of the food chain and expected not to do that. And in reality, I don't care who you put at the top of that food chain player-wise, they're all going to do the same thing.
I don't know if it's unrealistic to expect those guys not to do it once they get put into that position, though.
It is, because coaches are still going to call that guy if they play with him.
And that guy can very easily go, sorry, can't say anything, and hang up the phone. That's as easy as that. I don't think you can just be out here defending J.C. Treader just because everybody else does it. He was put into this position. I don't care if 9 out of 10 guys were going to go out there and say anything. He's in this position of power. A head's supposed to be defending the players underneath him and behind him. Yes, those other guys can go do it, but those other guys aren't in this role that he wants to be in, that he put himself into the election process of. He wanted to do this. If you're going to go out there and do that, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard as well. Like I said, it's very easy to just hit the hang up button instead of spilling the tea on every single player around.
I understand. I'm just telling you. And you could say there's some higher than power than I realize of some guy that's going to go in there and do that. I don't think that player exists. I don't. You could say that player exists, that high character guy exists, and that won't be the case. I don't. I think everybody well, I can't say everybody because I don't know for sure. But I would bet you 99% of the guys, if they're asked by a former coach or a former player, are going to spill the beans on whoever it is they're asking about and telling them the truth and what's going on. Whether it doesn't have to be via email. It could be just J.C. Treader out to lunch with his buddy, right? And they're just talking about Russell Wilson one way or the other. And he says what he has to say. They start laughing, have a beer, whatever, they leave. That guy goes back to the coaches in the gym like, dude, I was talking Russ last night, or I was talking JC last night, man. This dude's an idiot. We don't want him on our team. Don't sign him. JC was just having a couple beers with a buddy at a bar, and now it's J.C. Treader's colluding against somebody.
But they also can't put that into a court document just because that guy said hearsay.
I understand. I'm just saying, like
that's a different situation.
Everybody's going to talk. All right, what's next? We got to get to Joe Block here in like 8 minutes now.
Next up, we got Gilbert Arenas. He was on the Dan Patrick Show. He was being critical of this year's NBA Finals because of the small market teams.
10 years from now, we'll remember these NBA Finals for what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. We won't. No, let's just be honest. When it comes to small market teams, we
Here we go.
really don't remember much about them. We don't really talk about the Toronto championship. We don't really talk about the Bucks Giannis championship. And with this one, I mean, the only memorable thing was Hallie game winner, game one. Other than that, there was nothing in this finals that makes you say, oh my God, this was the great finals. And let's put it up there with the top 10 of all time. It's not, it didn't have none of those moments. I
don't understand why this dude gets TV and radio interviews. Like, what are we going to talk to him about? Guns in the locker room? Why is he was just on Rich Eisen like 2 weeks ago.
He was on the NBA Finals coverage on ESPN.
I don't understand. Like, based on what? All the crazy crap we've played that he has said, hey, we're guilty. But we take it from his podcast. All the crazy crap this dude said. Who then decides that, oh yeah, we should hire this guy and put him on TV or the radio? Like, I don't get it. Like, listen, is he right? Yes, he's right. They rarely ever talk about the Bucks in Giannis. Giannis dropping 50 in that game against the Suns. He's right. They never talk about Kawhi in Toronto winning that title. He's right about that too. He's absolutely correct. Will they talk about this in 10 years? Probably not. They probably won't. He's probably right. It sucks though, because we live in a small market and you know he's right. That's the thing that angers me and bothers me. Because that's exactly what it is. If Giannis would have won that title in New York, they'd already have a statue built for him, renamed the arena and everything else for the Knicks, and he'd be a legend forever, and they talk about the stupid thing every year for the rest of our lives because it happened in New York.
They were ready to crown Jalen Brunson after Eastern Conference Finals appearance.
Yes, exactly right. Yes. All right, one last cut. We got to get to Joe Block.
All right, and last up here, we're talking with Tim Benz. Earlier in the show of Trib Live in Pittsburgh, we're also going to talk with Joe Block coming up here. This is Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee Show discussing that this may be his last season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. That's why we just did a one-year deal. Steelers didn't need to, put any extra years on that or anything. So, this was really about finishing with a lot of love and fun and peace for the career that I've had. I mean, I played 20 freaking years. It's been a long run, and I've enjoyed it. And what better place to finish than in one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL with Mike Tomlin and a great group of leadership and great guys in the city that expects you to win.
Mark my words. His whole take on leadership and a coaching staff will not be this positive by the time this whole thing is done. Mark my words. If I was Tomlin, I wouldn't want him because it's going to ruin whatever relationship we have. Because by the time this is done, he's going to be done with him. Like, I'm done. Don't call me ever again. That's how it's going to end. And I get it. It's a rental. It's a one-year thing, whatever. Unless Tomlin's planning on retiring after this and being like, okay, one last run with Rodgers and then I'm out of here. Okay, maybe. You just heard our guy, Tim Benz on. He wasn't very appreciative of Mike Tomlin. He's like, these guys, people in Pittsburgh are angry that the dude's still the head coach because he just blows it every year in the first round. And I'm going to bring Rodgers in and everything that's going to come along with Aaron Rodgers. Buckle in, Pittsburgh. Enjoy. We'll see you one time this year when we play you, but yeah, no thank you. Wade versus Diener is back for year 3. Join NBA stars Dwayne Wade and Travis Diener on June 27th for the Champions for Literacy celebration as they make an impact in Milwaukee and at Marquette. Tickets on sale now at wadeversusdiener.givesmart.com. Now at wadeversusdiener.givesmart.com. Joe Block, play-by-play voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Up next, it's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.
Line drive, base hit, left center. Yelich going to try and score. Phams up with it. His throw will go to third. The Brewers are on the board. Good piece of hitting from Bryce Terang.
A good piece of hitting indeed. Yelich had a home run. Durbin a sac fly. Terang a great defensive play, getting a runner at third base on a slow roller. Not enough. Brewers lose to the Pirates. Highlight courtesy of FanDuel Sports Network, Wisconsin. Jeff Levering on the call. All right, we got our guy. We were efforting. We got him. He is voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe_Block. Joe Block, voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates, joins us now here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. What's up, Joe? How are you?
Good to hear your voice again. Doing great.
All right, so I gotta tell you a quick story here. So when Bob Uecker passed away, we were on the air for like 6 hours. I was on the air, and we were getting all these different guests on. And I'm texting, and I realized today that I have texted that same number now for like the last over a year, and realized that I had two numbers for you in my phone, and I was texting the wrong one for the last year and a half. So I apologize for that. So with that being said, now that I have you on the air, your thoughts on the passing of Bob and your memories with him before we get into the current Brewers-Pirates series.
Yeah, it's been a heavy couple of days for me. This is my first time coming back here since he passed away, and in fact, I just went to go visit him and talk with him for a little bit, graveside, and it's going to take a while to really sink in. Just one of my closest friends, someone that really took care of me and my family, and treated people so well, and gave me so many different examples without even trying of just how to be a man, how to be a good broadcaster. And I just miss him dearly. So that's been the prevailing thought, is just missing him and wishing I could shake his hand and have a laugh with him right now. And just can't do that anymore. It's pretty sad last couple of days for me.
Joe, let's go. I just want to go back if you don't mind. So tell everybody again, where were you prior to getting the Brewer job? Where were you calling games prior to coming here?
I was working for the Dodgers doing the radio postgame show the 1 year before I was here. But I worked in the minor leagues. I worked in the NBA in New Orleans and doing pre- and post-game shows on the radio for then the Hornets. So a lot of different places, but it was until we got here, my wife and I, that we've, started to feel like, hey, we've got a home. And she grew up in Pittsburgh, so that's why we moved over there. I applied for a job transfer.
Yeah, I guess that's how it works.
Just as we were having our first child, the job opened up over there. So, you gave me his blessing, and we went for it and got it. And so we've been able to raise our children with their family, and that's been priceless. But hey, we talk about Milwaukee all the time, and every time I get to come back, I miss it so much. It's such a great place to live.
So when you got to Milwaukee, you get the play-by-play job, you get in there. When did you realize that you were good with Uke and you were like kind of part of the deal? Like, I'm sure nerves had to be a part of it and so forth. And I'm sure there might have been a moment at some point where you're like, all right, we're good. I'm comfortable. Let's go.
There definitely was a moment because we got together for dinner at Don and Charlie's, which used to be this great restaurant, in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yep.
And so the team told me, hey, you're gonna meet Uke down there, and he and I hadn't met before, so this was our chance to get to know each other. So from my perspective, I'm thinking, well, this is an audition, and then if he says it's okay, then maybe I've got the job, But the way that he made it, he made me feel comfortable right away. So, in fact, me and a buddy went over to Bryant's Sunday night and had a stinger in his honor.
Nice.
That was the drink that he had. When I sat down next to him at Don and Charlie's, and of course I ordered, what kind of beer I ordered.
Yes.
So I don't know what your sponsors are. So but I figure it's safe to say that in this town. But yeah, anyway, so it was just funny. So we had some laughs, and then we moved over to the table, and shortly thereafter, a couple of rival beers were sent to our table, and the guy comes over who sent him over, And Uke goes, "Hey, Fergie, come over here. Meet my new partner, Joe Block." It was Fergie Jenkins.
Fergie Jenkins.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Oh, my gosh, there's Fergie Jenkins and Bob Uecker, and I'm sitting here. And he said, "Meet my new partner, Joe Block." And then I was like, oh, like, this is it. Like,
yeah.
I got this job. So we sat there for 3.5 hours laughing, just getting to know each other. The time went by so quickly that we realized I could hear like Snoop Dogg playing from the kitchen, like they were cleaning out. We were the last people in the place, other than a few people working out in the back. So, we hit it off right away, and it was a great 4 years, and all the years afterward too. He was always very, very good to me, and we always had a lot of laughs, and that was the main thing.
Joe Block joining us, voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy. Steve Sparky, Fifer with you. I would imagine traveling on the road with the Pirates versus traveling on the road with Uecker, probably not the same.
Well, I mean, our laughs, most of them, you would know most of them if you were listening along with us.
But Uecker was a rock star, right? Like when you leave a hotel, everybody's lined up to meet Bob and all of that. Like it's not just kind of walking in and out of a hotel.
Yeah. I mean, but they would, even with other teams, the star players of those teams, they're looking for. But the differences would come when we'd sit in the booth, because when we'd be in the booth, then who knows who's coming to visit.
Right.
There was a time in Kansas City, George Brett had just come over, and okay, that's logical. We're in Kansas City, and Brett comes in and talks with Uke, and then the very next inning, there's another man that comes in to see Uke, and everyone had to get past the gatekeeper, Kent Sommerfeld, the longtime producer engineer.
Great guy.
Yeah,
his son just got married, I think, this last weekend or two.
Yes. Yeah. He's married them both off in last year.
Yep.
So if he got past Kent, then he's all right. That's what I'm thinking. But he's talking to me, and he's kind of disheveled looking guy. I'm like, I'm trying to, who is this guy? And he's talking about him, but it's Uke's inning. So, okay. He's talking about Uke, and then we're going to get to a break, and then you can, talk to Uke or whatever. And he goes, "Hey, Al, how you doing?" Okay, Al. Okay, Al. Who's Al? I don't know. And meanwhile, this guy's talking to me about, he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm originally from Detroit." And he goes, "Oh, what do you think about the Colavito Harvey Keene trade?" Which was like in 1960 or something like that. Top home run hitter for the top batting average guy. And we're debating the merits of this trade. And I'm thinking, who's Al? Who's from Detroit named Al? And then, he and Uke talked for a little while, and he's like, "All right, Coop, see you later." And then, like, as he's walking out, I'm like, Al is Cooper. That was Alice Cooper. Oh, my gosh. And like, this is the kind of stuff that would happen almost every day or every series for sure. I mean, just at home or on the road. That's the kind of stuff that, he knew so many people from so many walks of life. You never know who was coming in the booth to see him. And, it was just crazy to witness all this stuff.
That's so good. Joe Block, voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I wanted to get his take on you because we haven't talked since that, so thank you for that. I wanted to get your take now because tomorrow, tonight's nice. Peralta's on the mound, so forth for the Brewers, but from a Brewers fan perspective, it's all about tomorrow, and I think it's going to be a sellout or close to a sellout with Mizorowski against Paul Skeens. Mizorowski's only made 2 starts. Brewer fans trying to figure this out. You've watched Paul Skeens now for over a year. Did you know right off the bat, the first time you saw him, that you had something really special in front of you versus all the years of, calling play-by-play that you had behind you?
I think the second game, I knew that. The first game, he had jitters. He was very mediocre. The second game, he pitched in Chicago against the Cubs, and it was until the third inning that they hit a ball forward, fair or foul. And I'm thinking, oh, this is something I've never seen before. He's pitched, I think it was 6 no-hit innings and struck out 11. And, they didn't do anything against him. And I'm thinking, this is his second start in the major league. So now this is what Brewers fans are thinking, right? You see a guy that's unhittable when he comes up to the major leagues and throws hard and all that. So it's interesting because it wasn't that long ago, just 13 months ago, that Skeens is the new guy on the block and trying to prove himself. Now he's got 39 starts in, and he's the best pitcher in the live ball era through 39 starts, if you like ERA. So all right, well, here's someone that's trying to, knock him off his block a little bit. So it'll be fun to see that. We didn't get to see Scooble Skeens in Detroit on the doubleheader day I thought we were going to. So, hey, this is a nice nice alternative coming up tomorrow afternoon. That should be good.
I think everybody's looking forward to it. Who in the heck is Nick Gonzalez? Because I bet you most Brewer fans didn't know who Nick Gonzalez was prior to last night's 5-for-5 outing.
Yeah, first-round pick in 20. He was the NCAA leader in home runs when COVID hit. And so, missed most of that season, obviously. And then just worked his way up through the minor leagues. And he had missed most of this year with a foot fracture that happened in spring training. He still played through it. And he was rounding the bases on a home run on opening day. And he just couldn't finish, barely got around the bases. And then he's been out almost the whole year. So played a little bit of the year last year. The guy can hit. It's just a matter of, all right, getting, no pun intended, his footing underneath him. So now I think that's finally starting to come. He's had about a year's worth of big league games. And so now, he's going to hit. And we saw that last night. It was his first 4-hit game, let alone 5-hit game. But, he'll be a thorn in the Brewers' side for years to come, I think.
Also, Isaac Madsen. I don't think Brewer fans knew who the heck that guy was either. Now, I know Bednar is your closer for right now. I'm guessing Madsen is the future closer for Pittsburgh?
No. He's almost 30, and he's pitched in independent ball a couple times. He's one of those guys that just, sometimes guys figure it out much later. And since Donnie Kelly took over as the manager, he's had so much confidence in this guy. Really picked up off the scrap heap. He was not throwing this hard last year. He came up and pitched like 2-3 games at the end of the year, throwing 93, nothing special whatsoever. Now he's throwing 95 to 97, and he's just trying to blow the fastball by you, and he's doing it, and it's impressive. And I don't know where it came from, but he's just probably, in my conversations with him, he just got frustrated with, stinking. It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna give it my best and let the chips fall where they may. He just became a dad in the spring for the first time, and just said, this is my last chance probably to stick in the major leagues, and good for him. I mean, he's just letting it eat and seeing what happens, and it's working so far. So, hey, good for him. But he's been a big help in the bullpen the last month or so with the Pirates.
Yeah, I was super impressed by what I saw last night. One last one for you, Joe Block. Andrew McCutchen, they bring him back for another year this year. Obviously, we had him in Milwaukee. I think everybody loved him in Milwaukee. Getting to go back to Pittsburgh at the end of his career, I would assume he's huge for that clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, he still lives in the Pittsburgh area. I mean, and always has. He's going to be one of the great Pirates, once he retires and people start looking back at things like that. And, so to have him around, especially with, we don't have as many young guys as we used to. I mean, some of these guys have 2-3 years now in, but still they look to him and want to know things, and they're asking him stuff all the time. And he's been through it all. So that does help. Unfortunately, the Pirates got off to such a rough start that there's no coming back from, how far they got themselves in a hole. But last year when they were hanging around the edge of the playoff picture into late July, he was definitely a steadying presence for those guys that would look to him to try to learn something. So we're really glad to have him around, that's for sure.
Joe, great talking with you again. Thanks for hopping on. Miss hearing your call of the games for certain. And good luck in Pittsburgh, man. One of these days, they're going to figure this thing out, and you'll be back to calling postseason baseball again.
Well, if I can live long enough, hopefully that'll happen. Thank you.
Take care. There he is, Joe Block. Follow him on Twitter at Joe_Block. There he is, Joe Block. Oh, my goodness gracious. Joe Block is so much fun. And, he is I should have brought this up to him. So when we were used to go to spring training every year, and he is like I don't think he still does anymore. Big fantasy baseball guy, right? But not only fantasy baseball, but like nerdy type stuff. Like he had his own like numerical formulas and stuff that he used to grade players and all this other stuff. And when I was on his Twitter, where is it? On his Twitter, on the top of his Twitter, it's pinned. Introducing ERA Impact, my fix for ERA qualification. That was from February of 19, and he still has it pinned to the top. I'm telling you, this dude is super smart, super gets the numbers and all that aspect and making things work and make sense. So good. If he wasn't doing this, he'd be in a front office somewhere. I'm telling you. He's that smart.
I mean, it sounds like it. He sounds like a genius. Did he win a lot of fantasy leagues with all these?
I think so. Yeah, but I mean, like, one year in spring training, and I really started talking about it for a little while up in the press box. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like, Matt Arnold, the GM for the Brewers, he's a big, or I don't know if he still is, but he was a big fantasy football player, right? So whenever he would come on with him, and I would talk some fantasy football when he was the assistant GM to Stearns. So it's just funny. Like, you would think that, you know, a lot of these guys don't play fantasy sports. What are you, crazy? But all these guys that are involved in sports, whether it's play-by-play, writers, players themselves, front office, clubbies, whatever, most of these guys all play fantasy sports, whether it's a sport they're in or another sport. I mean, Maurice Jones-Drew, my God, he played for the Jaguars and was playing fantasy football while he was active. That should have been outlawed. That never should have been allowed to happen. I don't know how you can play fantasy football when you're still playing the sport in which you can really kind of dictate everything.
Players doing it is a little goofy to me, but I think for like a play-by-play announcer or a GM,
totally fine.
I think if you take it seriously, you can really truly learn the value of players. You can truly learn the value of different statistics. I think it can really help you out with your job if you take it seriously.
Again, Joe Block, really smart about all that stuff. I'm sure he never talks about it, but he is really on top of it. Potawatomi Sportsbook, they're on top of it too. That's where you want to go to watch the game tonight, or if you don't have a ticket to the game tomorrow afternoon, because yesterday, when we talked with Rick Schlesinger, president of baseball operations for the Brewers, or business operations, as to say, for the Brewers, he said they were near a sellout, and they said the same thing during the broadcast last night. So there might be tickets available, but if not, go down to Potawatomi Sportsbook. Watch the game there tomorrow afternoon. Day baseball, man. Work a half a day on a Wednesday. Not many people work a half a day on a Wednesday. It's always Friday is the half a day, right? Work a half a day on a Wednesday. Go down, check out the game. Have lunch down there. All day brunch going on. They got burgers, wraps, wings, 7 different types of sauces, homemade desserts and pastries made there on site at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. 48 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails. You can bet futures if you want to, bet futures. You can do that too across all the different sports. Always a fun time at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I always suggest reserving ahead of time by going to potawatomi.com/sportsbook. That way, you'll have a seat. potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Don't forget the leadoff show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook with Tommy Wirtz, coming up at 5 o'clock, 90-minute pregame show today. Also still to come, Andrew Wagner, Forbes Sports Brewers writer, presented by Focus Baseball. He'll join us coming up here in about 20 minutes. But up next, our green and gold update, right here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.